Much. Cuomo, big show coming up as he breaks down whether there will be another debate.
Hey, I'm Chris Cuomo. Welcome to NewsNation. Last night's debate mattered. So what do you say? Let's get after why. Now, here's the analysis. I don't care what the polls show, all right? That is largely BS number crunching, okay? At best, they reflect the froth of the moment. Okay, this is a tight race. It's going to stay tight. But last night mattered, all right? Two things can be true at the same time. This poll stuff and who won, who didn't, mostly noise, mostly media playing for clicks and views, mostly the parties just trying to play to advantage or salvage something in the case of Trump. You know what you saw. You saw Harris and Trump in full effect last night. This election offers two very different choices that are a function of different takes on this country. Strategically, Trump needed to show that Harris was not up to the moment or the job. Instead, that's how he came off. The other metric is how the people who will decide this race were affected. Who are they? Undecided independents and maybe women en masse. Both directionally favor Harris. 69% of independents saying that she won. What does win mean? Win really means that she was resonating with them last night, okay? Now, saying she won is not me just trying to play to some false sense of parity, criticizing both sides. You just call balls and strikes. Here's what it misses, okay? She is still being weighed and measured. There are still question marks about her plans and ambitions. And you see that when you look at the issue preferences. When you look inside the who won to, well, on what basis? She's got trouble on the economy. She's not selling our reality the right way to get the independence that she needs. She struggles with immigration. It's a big problem and it's on her watch. Okay? So you have to remember, if this remains an election about grievance, the incumbent, and that's for Harris, is vulnerable. Now, Trump grossly overplayed his hand in an exhausting teardown of this country. And in doing that, there were huge missed opportunity. I saw one cartoonish meme that really captured what went wrong. Here it is.
We're the sauce on your steak. We're the cheese in your cake. We put the spring in Springfield.
They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the pets in Springfield.
Now, I'm not laughing because none of this is funny, okay? Other than refusing to say if he supports Ukraine, and ignoring that they should be able to win this war for their own sovereignty. And second, insisting everyone wanted women to be stripped of the right over their own body and sent to the States. This moment was the most bothersome, not the cartoon. I love The Simpsons. But it's why and what they're making a mockery of. Why are The Simpsons from Springfield? We don't know what state, right? That's part of the gag, but Matt Groening used Springfield because he's a smart guy. And he knew at the time, and still knows today, there are Springfields all over the country. There are about 30 of them. And for whatever weird reason, they are oddly similar in size and in disposition. All of the Springfields, including Springfield, Ohio, lag bigger populations in ways that should really matter but are getting ignored. Springfield, Ohio, lags the country, lags the rest of the state of Ohio in unemployment, underemployment. Remember, underemployment, U9, not the U6 if you're an economics geek. The U6 is unemployment. U9, as an indicator, underemployment. What does that mean? You need 2 jobs to make what you used to make. You're working more hours for less pay. That metric matters more. That's why we ignore it, because it's a higher number. Income disparity, education disparity, lack of skilled labor. Springfield, Ohio is middle America, and they have real problems that were ignored in favor of demonizing migrants. The migrants aren't the bad part. The system is the bad part. And instead of talking about what mattered most, Trump played to what mattered least. Not only did he ignore the facts or lack thereof, the truth is a better story than the fiction he's peddling. And in fact, even if it were true, hold it there, even if it were true, let's just say, and there is no reason to believe this, but let's play to what he wants to be true. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Okay, let's say they were. To him, he wants you to think what? These people are savages. They're animals. They're crap. Look what they do. They'll eat your dog. You know what I would see if that were true, and it isn't? How can we have a situation where this is what people have to do to survive? He doesn't even see the humanity in his own parody. The system is broken. That's how you dump 10 or 20,000 people on a population of 60,000, which is already strapped of resources. Governor DeWine came out today and gave them state troopers and $2.5 million, which is a drop in the bucket. But that's all he can do. Springfield is a metaphor for the broken immigration system. It is not fair to people in Springfield, Ohio, and it's not fair to the people who were dumped in Springfield, Ohio. People having to eat pets, even if it were true, is not an indictment of them. It is an indictment of us. And none of that got dealt with by either of them. Harris missed the opportunity too. Why? Because what's the rule in politics? Binary politics, zero-sum politics. When your opponent is drowning, watch him drown. That doesn't get us better. What gets us better is Harris saying, I'm not going to play to the hatred. I'm going to play to the problems. I'm going to attack that, not the people. Did Harris play the debate game better? Absolutely. I told you. You can look it up. Trump made a mistake calling her stupid, set way too low a bar. I told you she would expose his lack of debate skill. I told you I'd stood on a stage with her. I've seen her do this. She is competent. She is formidable. She showed him. Did she give answers that remove all doubts? Hell no. This is a close race for a reason. But Trump blew a major moment and she used it. So where are we now? And what does it mean going forward? Which side will learn the lesson of Springfield? Because if you lose, it's because you didn't learn. And if you get what Springfield, Ohio really means and how to speak to it, that's who wins. Let's ask Trump campaign senior advisor Tim Murtaugh, social media influencer and immigration activist Carlos Eduardo Espina, and the author of Shameless: Republicans' Deliberate Dysfunction and the Battle to Preserve Democracy. BTC, Brian Tyler Cohen. It's good to have each and all. First, I know Espina agrees with me, but do you two have any violent disagreement to what you've heard me say already that you must make your witness about before I ask any questions?
Are you talking about the Springfield, Ohio stuff you were just talking about?
Yes, and what was played and misplayed.
Sure. Well, I think, look, those reports, this is not something that the campaign or Donald Trump just made up. Those reports of the issues with pets came from residents in that community.
They are not verified by the police. They are not verified by the city manager.
Hold on.
The people who put out the pictures have stepped away from them. Come on, Tim.
I know, but there is audio of a 911 call, and there is a police report as police responded to that. It's on thefederalist.com. They have it there. The point is, even if that is not ever verified and is never proved, or even if it is proved, the point is that it has drawn attention to the plate, as you just pretty eloquently said, it has drawn attention to the plate in Springfield, Ohio. There's a lot of other towns like this around the country. And I don't know, as you watched that debate last night, you would never know that Kamala Harris has ever had a concern about what's going on the southern border. You have to drag her kicking and screaming to ever even talk about it. So it does serve a purpose because these are reports coming from locally. This is not made up stuff. And it has gotten the conversation refocused back onto what's going on with immigration in this country.
What it's gotten focused on is what I used to characterize as the brown menace, Tim. There's an opportunity in this to speak to the reality. And even if those reports were true, and I don't believe them, and neither do the police, and neither do the people running Springfield, Ohio, even if they were, to use it as a metaphor for these people being somehow less than the rest of us, as opposed to the desperation that they must be facing if they were true, which they're not? That's the missed opportunity. Now, Brian, to Tim's point, will Harris zero in on what was missed last night? Now, I get it. If I heard Trump saying that and I was debating him, I would have let it go also. But Springfield, Ohio is a metaphor for what's happening in this country. People are underwater, and they are often being overwhelmed, like New York City, by migrants from a broken system.
Chris, the Trump campaign is a fundamentally unserious campaign. The fact that they would raise this issue when we all know that there was a solution for what's happening at the border. There was a bill that was negotiated by Chris Murphy, Kyrsten Sinema, and conservative Republican James Lankford. And what did Donald Trump do? He issued his clarion call to Republicans and made sure that they killed the bill because he wanted to preserve the issue as a campaign issue as opposed to actually fix the issue. So for him to then go out, forget the fact that he used this bogus story and made a fool of himself on that stage. Forget the fact that Tim is right now continuing to perpetuate this same nonsense. But for him to go out and use this story when the reason that we have these problems is because they're being entrenched by bad faith politicians who know that the problems can help them politically is a testament to everything that's wrong with politics.
But why isn't that true about Biden?
Hold on a second.
Hold on, Tim.
They didn't need legislation to undo the things that Donald Trump had done.
That's what I was going to say.
They unsecured the border by executive fiat.
Hold on.
They don't need legislation.
These are Band-Aid fixes. If you want actual solutions to these problems, have Congress pass an actual solution. You and I both know. Everybody on this panel knows that if you want actual long-standing solutions to these issues at the border, it is not going to be bubblegum and paper clips that fix these things on a president-by-president basis. Have Congress actually pass legislation.
If that's true, it's still shame on you because they never tried to get this done until very late in the administration. The executive actions that he took, he could have taken early on. We both know that they gutted all those home country deals because that's what you do when you come in, is erase what happened, and that was playing to the progressive side of your party, but it was a mistake. And Biden waited too long. If he had put those executive orders in earlier, he would have eased the pressure there. He chose not to. Now there's a third issue. And this is why I wanted to bring you in here, Espina, not just because you're very handsome, but you understand the humanity and what is being done here. And I've heard you make the point, I'm kind of taking it from you. Even if people were doing desperate things there, which I don't believe is true, why isn't it looked at as what needs to be addressed for the human beings there and how they're being treated or mistreated? What do you see in the story about what's happening in Springfield, Ohio, as an advocate for migrants?
Well, one thing we need to look at is it a bad thing that 20,000 Haitians have gone to Springfield, Ohio in the past year or two? I mean, you look at Springfield, Ohio, it's a declining population. You look at the business owners there, they're saying, hey, the Haitians are good people, they're working, they don't have drug problems, they're doing good things. So this idea that Haitians are coming, what it really comes down to, honestly, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, they're scared of black people. You know, they can't say that outright. So now they have Haitians. Oh, what happened with the case with the whole cat? There was a case of a lady, she ate a cat. She was a U.S. citizen, but she was black, so they automatically said, oh, she's Haitian, and then this whole thing got started and it got out of control. So what it comes down to is a fear, and I think if you really look at it, it's an irrational fear because, yes, are there people who have come in over the past few years who are bad, who do commit crimes? That's true. We can't deny that. That's the reality. But to say there's millions of people or the 20,000 Haitians in Springfield are all criminals, they're all bad people, everyone knows that's not true. So we need to have a more nuanced conversation. Okay, how can we have, incorporate immigrants into our community, see the humane side, and yes, deal with those bad actors who are committing crimes. But like I said, anytime a migrant does something, it automatically gets attributed to every single migrant. We had a school shooting in Georgia a week ago. It was a young white kid, as it tends to be. We didn't see a mass attack on white people this past debate saying, hey, we got to deal with all these white kids who are doing school shootings. So why when a migrant commits a crime, all of a sudden it's millions and millions of migrants are all horrible people? I mean, we need to understand, yes, like in every community, there's good people, there's bad people, but as in every community, the good people are more than the bad people. That's just the reality.
Let me get a quick take from both of you guys, and I appreciate you all being here, especially after a late night last night. Tim, what is the lesson of last night? What does Trump have to do to reach out to the voters he needs, which is not just the base, got to have the base, independents who are undecided? He didn't do it last night. What does he need to do different?
Well, I'm going to come at that from a different angle. I think he did do that last night. If you look at the coverage from the New York, Well, if you look at the coverage from the New York Times and Reuters, where they had focus groups and they talked to people who had tuned in to see and hear from Kamala Harris because they know she's been hiding, they wanted to hear why she's running for president, what her plans are. They did not get that. In Reuters, they had a focus group of 10 undecideds. 6 of them broke for Trump. In the New York Times, you had all these undecided voters saying, I really expected to hear Kamala Harris make some case for why she's running for president, and I didn't hear that. It was a missed opportunity. The Harris campaign had focused everyone's attention on this by hiding her for so long. They put so much pressure on this debate. So millions of people tuned in expecting to hear her say something about why she wants this office that she's seeking. She's not going to get another chance to make a first impression on those folks. That was a grave mistake. And I think it's exactly why you saw her campaign demanding a nuke. If she
why did Lindsey Graham say that he should fire his debate prep team?
Lindsey Graham says a lot of things that later on down the road he may or may not agree with on down the road. If she thought that she had done well and she left this debate with a clear lead and she was the clear winner after that, she would not be demanding another debate. You know, they try to limit her exposure, and that's the reason why people tuned in, because they've never seen her extrapolate.
That's one perspective. True. Brian, give me another one.
Tim, let me ask you a question. After Donald Trump beat Joe Biden in the first debate, what's the first thing he did?
You tell me.
He requested another debate with Joe Biden. So if you're claiming that the winner all of a sudden doesn't want another debate, that is
no. It's a different circumstance. Right, because Donald Trump doesn't get hidden away for 51 days and then have to do a joint interview with someone as his only appearance.
It's funny that you say that too, because Kamala Harris has been crisscrossing the country: Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin.
That's not reading a speech off a teleprompter is not the same thing as sitting down for interviews or engaging in debates. You know that perfectly well. Anyone can read a teleprompter. It's sitting down and dealing with reporters one-on-one. Last night, the moderators could have done that, as Chris was just talking about. They didn't. They have limited her exposure. For you to sit here and claim that she hasn't been limited in how many times she actually appears in the public and has to deal with her own wits on the spot, they limit those opportunities. You know that's true. You know it's true.
I would worry less about Kamala Harris, who is ascendant in every poll, who is leading in polls even in North Carolina and Nevada right now. And worry about the guy who is on national television yelling about eating pet dogs and cats and saying that babies are being murdered after they're born.
But I'm saying it's something that you want to learn from and not do again. Mr. Espina, that's why I need you in these conversations. I love watching your face. Brian is a young guy. Tim and I have been in this for a while. But you bring a different perspective of where you just want to see it get better. You don't have a side. And I like to see the balance of this conversation. Each of you have something to say. We'll see how the people feel about it. I hope there's another debate. I hope there's 3 more. And I don't even think you need moderators. The more discussion, the better. Brian Tyler Cohen, thank you very much. Good luck with the book. Shameless.
Thanks, Chris. Also
my nickname in high school. Tim Murtaugh, thank you very much for being with me. And Carlos Eduardo Espina, thank you very much for making your witness. You're always welcome here. 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Coming up, today is 9/11. I've probably told you about me and 9/11, and it's personal for each and all of us, and it should be, but I'll tell you what. Never forget, we've absolutely forgotten. We've absolutely forgotten. What was it that we should remember? What is it that reflects on where we are today? I asked Frank Luntz to come in, not just to crunch numbers and talk about the campaign. I want him to help you understand what he's learned by talking to people at West Point, where he is a professor, about what the legacy of 9/11 was supposed to be and how important it would be to us today. Stay with us.
Hazel Centillion Fernandez, Julio Fernandez, Elisa Giselle Farena, Anne Marie Celerin Ferreira.
Never forget, 9/11, day for reflection, had a huge impact on so many. 3,000 lives lost, an entire generation grew up with the legacy of what happened on that day. You could argue multiple generations. But certain families were affected in a way that'll never end. And yet here we are 23 years later. Can you believe it? What have we learned? How are we changed? I don't think that there are really great answers to those questions, not as a collective. The last few days, we've seen a dialogue about one of the fundamental issues of this country, which is who are we, what are we about, and how do we enforce the laws that are supposed to matter? And it has become mostly a conversation about a place that's in trouble, that is representative of a lot of places in this country. But the dialogue has been about whether or not human beings are eating pets. Pollster Frank Luntz is a legend, and I have been following him for decades. He sees things differently because of what is happening today versus what should. And he has it in stark relief because of where he's teaching. He's at West Point, okay? He is the American Politics Senior Fellow there. He does focus groups. He made them a tool in politics. He's been doing them with the cadets to learn why they decided to make such a unique sacrifice. Now, I went to a school that set you up to go to West Point. I could not cut it. I could not see myself having that level of commitment that these men and women do. So he wanted to learn about men and women who are actually doing what we all promised to do after 9/11, to never forget and to make our lives about that larger purpose. Here's what they told him.
What does the Constitution mean to you?
Just putting myself in the shoes of our founding fathers. When they were writing that, they were writing of a dream. They were dreaming of something better. And to even see that dream come to where it is today, it's really moving because all of us swore an oath to protect that Constitution, to protect that dream, protect that vision for something better.
All to know that you are the best of America, and that we'll never have a privilege like this. So thank you all.
Frank joins me now. Why are you so affected by them, especially on this day?
Because I feel guilty. I didn't serve, and I should have. I'm alive today because of them. I know that I can be irresponsible because of them. I know that I can say things that I regret, that I have the freedom, the protections of the Constitution, these men and women. And I would ask your control room to rewind this just to give them one more shot before we're done of a minute of them. My only regret is that this is my voice and it should be theirs. I can't possibly tell their story. It is one of sacrifice and service, courage and character. And I look at the presidential campaign, I look at politics in America and how we treat each other. The cadets treat each other with respect, with decency, with civility. They disagree, but they do so in the way that we used to do it, with goodness and kindness and the objective of providing a better future. They have each other's backs. I'm sitting in this focus group doing this moderation, and I'm thinking how horrific, and I shouldn't say this, but I feel so small, and they feel so significant because they represent the values that we all cherish, the values of decency, and it's inculcated in them. It's who they are, and nothing will change them.
Frank,
Chris, these are the best of America.
What was their flash reaction to what we watched last night?
I really wish to keep that between me and them. And I say this because this is the only group in America that is nonpartisan, that is non-political, and that I'm going to protect that no matter what. And what I appreciate about them is the search for the truth. They're not looking for slogans or politics. They're looking to know what's really going on. And they will serve whoever represents the Constitution. And by the way, that's one of the things I learned about them, is that they're not there to defend the president. They're not even there to defend America. They exist to defend the Constitution of the United States. They've all read it. They know what it means. They know the significance of it. And so they can have these political disagreements and debates without ever getting mean or nasty. And they simply want to know more because they want to serve with distinction. They want to serve. And I watch this when they're in uniform, milling around the public, how people come up to them and thank them for their service. And I think that feels so hollow to me. because it's so much more than that. And I will tell you this as a final point, that they're willing to sacrifice. They're willing to make the greatest sacrifice of all. And they will do so for the men and women beside them. And you can see it right there. And they'll do it for the country. And we are blessed. Thank God they exist, because it makes me sleep a little bit easier every night knowing that they're there and they've got my back.
And they are the aspiration of what we hoped 9/11 would mean. You know, you always want a lesson from that kind of suffering. You want something to come out of it other than the misery. And you do have young people now who lived that experience and learned about that experience and made a determination that we could only hope more of us could arrive at. Frank, thank you very much for the perspective. The cell has worked. Last minute of the show, we're going to re-rack and we're going to play it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You heard me, Dusty. Make it happen in the break. Last block is going to be phone calls. I'll leave a minute. The last minute will do. Now, let's get some more perspective. Nobody's better at post-game analysis than our next guest, Stephen A. Smith, okay? I keep telling you, this man is going to make his witness in this country as a hub for conversation about things that matter, not just sports. He watched last night. What mattered in what he saw? Next. Stephen A. Smith knows that our country has to do better when it comes to the politics, that our choices reflect a poor level of talent as much as anything else. He said that Harris needed to get out in front of the American people. He was saying it sooner than others. He said he had to make her case. Did she do it last night? The man himself joins us now, Stephen A. Smith. Good to see you, handsome. What'd you see on that stage?
What's going on, my man? How you doing? Well, I saw a vice president that went after the former president of the United States in a way that I've been calling for her to do so. I mean, she was in attack mode, make no mistake about it, and I thought that she achieved her goals. She was evasive with discussing several issues, very direct. Some direct questions were thrown in her direction. She didn't answer them. She didn't, when she was addressed about flip-flopping on fracking, on the border, on health care, she didn't necessarily answer all of those questions. She was evasive. We could have anticipated that. But in the end, what's the goal of a debate? It's to win the debate. It's to make sure you depart looking better than the other individual. And knowing Trump, expecting snide remarks, expecting insults, expecting lies and things of this nature, she just pounced on them. She played the role of prosecutor, and I thought she did it rather effectively, if not magnificently. She certainly won the night because she came across as the adult in the room who was very seasoned, very prepared, that took it seriously. And he came across as somebody who had underestimated the competition, didn't prep properly, and got exposed because of it. And in the process of doing so, got exposed for being a bit belligerent, truculent, and childish, dare I say, which played right into her hands. She baited him, and he took the bait, hook, line, and sinker every single time. That's why she won the debate last night.
Biggest surprise, biggest opportunity left on the table?
I think the biggest surprise for me was that she wasn't forced to address more feverishly the positions that she took and how they had changed from years ago. It's not to say that she deserves to be insulted or crucified in any way because of it, but to a constituency out there, the voters out there, she certainly should have been held to account for it and to really, really explain in depth as to what the changes were and why indeed she made those changes. But Trump didn't help himself because he got caught up in defending himself, and as a result, he didn't press the issue. And the moderators, obviously, in the eyes of the right, certainly didn't press the issue enough. So that was a surprise in and of itself that I thought was a negative. The positive was I just felt like, you know what, she really, really took advantage of exposing his lack of preparation. When we think about our commander-in-chief, we want to make sure they know what the hell is going on, that they put forth their due diligence, do their homework, make sure they're on top of things, and that they're well prepared. So whatever position they take, we're confident that they know what they're talking about, and we're confident that they can handle the call. And I think that a lot of that was exposed about Trump last night in terms of what former cabinet members used to say about him in terms of him being ill-prepared, dismissing, doing the actual work that it took, relying on his gut more so than actual intel and information that was being provided to him by a potpourri of individuals within his cabinet. This is what they were saying about him when he was in office, and he showed a lot of that last last night. So people can complain about the moderators. They can complain about how unfair and it came across as it being 3-1 or whatever. But in the end, it came down to a presidential candidate that was ill-prepared for the challenge because he treated her like he was going up against Joe Biden. And Kamala Harris, as she said emphatically and very, very directly, she is not Joe Biden.
Taylor Swift comes out right after in an obvious prepared endorsement. Your take on the impact and your take on the echo of it that it's got to be Kelsey, too, because Harris needs a big white dude to come out for her. I don't understand the second point, not on a race basis, but I don't know who cares about Kelsey. But Taylor Swift matters. Does she matter to you?
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't matter to me, but it matters to tens, if not hundreds of millions of kids out there who are of voting age, to be quite honest with you. I went to not one, but 2 Taylor Swift concerts. Of
course you did.
And I'm telling you right now.
You went alone, too, I understand.
Now, one of the greatest. No, I did not.
I heard you
took
went
my
alone.
daughters with me. And
it's not what I heard.
It was with my daughters. And no, that's a lie. That's a lie. I'm not going to Taylor Swift concert by myself. I took my daughters. But I got to tell you, Chris, it's one of the greatest concerts I've ever seen. And I've never seen, it was the closest I can honestly say, because I am a Beyonce fan all day, every day. Nobody comes before Beyonce. But the Taylor Swift concert, in terms of how these youngsters were acting, it was the closest thing that I had ever seen to Michael Jackson and how Michael Jackson had galvanized folks. People were in tears. They were fainting. They were having to be carried away by security. I've never seen anything like it. And they knew every single verse of every single one of her songs. She didn't even have to sing, and they would gravitate to her. There was a point where when I took them to SoFi Stadium to watch in Los Angeles to watch her perform, she got a 9.5-minute ovation. She couldn't sing her songs because they wouldn't stop cheering. That's the kind of effect that she has. So when she comes out the night of the debate, the immediate aftermath of it, as a young woman, supporting this person that is on the verge of being the first female president in United States history, you have to surmise that it's probably an incredibly profound thing to have happened. There's a fan base that she has. The Swifties, they're going to gravitate to what she wants to do to some degree. Not so much Kelsey. He's his own man. He's going to do whatever he feels is right, and he's going to leave it. I know him personally. He's a good man, a good brother, but he thinks for himself. Nobody's going to think for him. But Taylor Swift is a different phenomenon. She's special, and she can definitely have an impact. There's a lot of conservatives out there, and as one of my conservative friends has told me over the years, he said, y'all do a lot of all of that other stuff on the independent side and on the liberal side. He says, us conservatives, we just go to the polls and vote. He said, that's what he said. So we'll see. And we will see. But right now, it does not look good for Trump. Make no mistake about it.
What do you think of her signing at Childless Cat Lady?
That was a knock. That was a jab at vice presidential nominee Vance, no question about it. And rightfully so. He brought it on himself because I thought it was an immature comment on his part. You're running for the vice presidency of the United States. What you want to do is avoid alienating folks unnecessarily. Now, if you alienate them with your views on politics and policy, that would be one thing. But if you're going to throw snide remarks into the equation and alienate potentially millions of people unnecessarily, millions of ladies, especially when you support a policy of overturning Roe v. Wade, which is going to have an abundance of women against you anyway, it just doesn't seem like the most intelligent thing he could have done. I'm not calling him names. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just calling balls and strikes like I see it. And that's really what it comes down to. I think it was ill-advised. I think it was unnecessary. But I also think it was emblematic of the kind of thing Trump would do, which shows you that on part of the problem is having people in Trump's camp that seem to be more interested in appealing to him than appealing to the voters and the constituents out there.
Give me a quick yes, no. If Trump calls you and says, Stephen A., should I debate again? What do you say?
Oh, in a heartbeat. He definitely should, because he got his butt whipped in the first debate. And it wasn't on substance.
All you'd hear is
it
click
was on the
if
fact
you said that, by the way.
able to turn the table. Say what?
As soon as you said you got your butt kicked, you'd hear click. Nobody's telling him that.
Exactly. He got his butt clicked, no question. But it wasn't about substance. It was about style, and she won big time on the style points because she beat him at his own game. That's what's so profound about the performance last night. They're still going to debate her policy-wise. They're still going to excoriate her, and they're right to do so on the right because they feel adamantly different than she does. But in the end, for the purposes of a debate, it's about who walked away as the victor. And she did. And why did she do so? Because she beat him at his own game. She had him ruffled. She insulted him. I mean, your producer, Dusty, put up, I think she put something together where she was showing a whole bunch of tidbits where she just undressed him, called him weak, called him wrong, talked about audiences being exhausted from him and departing from his rallies and all of this stuff. And you could see him cringing, and he barely looked at her the whole night. All of these things played against him and played towards her in a very favorable fashion. She did what Hillary Clinton didn't do, what Joe Biden didn't do, which is beat him at his own game. She didn't even force him to play hers. She beat him at his game. She turned the tables, and he seemed ill-equipped to deal with it.
Stephen A. Smith, always appreciated. I hear you want to come back tomorrow. If you do, people would love to ask you questions, so I'll set it up. I always appreciate your time and your analysis.
Ain't nobody running. I'll be there.
I know you went alone to that concert, by the way. And I know you know all the words.
I did not.
I know you,
I swear I did
know
not.
You say.
And I don't know all the words.
You do. People
no, I don't.
Some say. Some say. 3 minutes and 45 seconds. What did you make of last night's debate? And you know he's a Swiftie. 844-968-7720. No man that skinny is not a Swiftie. I'm telling you. You're under 180 pounds. You're a Swiftie. 844-968-7720. Che cosa vuol dire? In Italian, that means, what do you want to say? Dusty, who do you got?
Okay. What do they want to say? Tony from Georgia.
What's your question, Tony?
Hey, guys. Thank you for allowing me to call in. My question to you, Chris, is do you feel like, and me as a independent voter, I really felt like ABC was not being completely fair to Trump. They kind of contradicted a few things he was saying, but they never did that to Kamala.
He lies too much. He lies too much. If you're working the refs, you're losing. And I don't believe in moderators. You can have fact checking on the side, put it up on the screen, like pop-up video or something like that. The time has passed for the need for a moderator, okay? It's over. Let two people stand up there and have a conversation and judge them the way you would anybody else in any other context. You don't need a moderator for people to act like adults. And if they can't act like adults, you'll see it. And if it descends into a shouting fest, you'll know it. And I think that there should be a mandate that we have more of them. I don't give a damn about the moderators, okay? Trump's problem is not the moderators. It's what comes out of his mouth. And he missed opportunities last night to connect to the real problems in a real place that is a metaphor for what's happening in this country. And he chose instead to play on a stupid meme about people eating pets. He chose to go low. That's on him, not the moderators. Next.
Fran from Boynton Beach, Florida.
What's your question?
I'm going to pick up on what you just said about Springfield. We are now in a country of forgotten people.
Yes.
What about East Palestine? Have you been back this year?
East Palestine.
Palestine, right. Has anybody looked into them?
Rich McHugh, who's in Springfield, Ohio right now, or he was today. No, he's there right now. He has been checking on East Palestine. We have been checking in. One of the people that we interviewed there recently passed away, succumbed to the illness and the emotional toll of what she was dealing with. And it is horrible. And you are correct. This is a politics that has become about two parties and which is worse. And the people are being left out except to be played as pawns in a poison game of which is worse. And you are right. But what's the answer? The answer has to be that you demand better. And that when something pisses you off, like something as egregious as what we saw last night, you say that. Instead of just picking a side, instead of just picking which one's worse, demand what would be better. Tell me what you think about Springfield, Ohio. Tell me about East Palestine. That's what you should be doing. That's all we can do. Next.
Next, we're going to go to Joseph from Arlington, Virginia.
Joe, what's your question?
Hey, what does Harris have to do after last night to ensure victory?
A lot. Listen, it's a relative assessment. Bill O'Reilly and I were getting into this last night. He's like, she didn't answer this, she didn't answer that, she didn't say that. It's a relative assessment. It's about her versus him. You know, it's not about her as a perfect curve. It's about her as a relative curve to him. So what does she have to do? A lot. Show you get what's happening in Springfield, Ohio, not just that you can watch Trump be a fool and talk about people eating pets. What are you going to do for those people there? Immigration sucks on your watch. We were not a bill away from fixing it. The bill they had would have made it better. It was bad and political malpractice for Trump to say, I want to run on the problem, don't try to fix it. But you waited way too damn long. And those executive actions that Biden did should have been done sooner. You say it. She's got to be pushed to do those things. This is going to be a very close race. Undecided, independents in about 30 counties in this country will probably make the difference unless women decide to vote en masse about having had a right taken away from them. Now, we're not seeing that in the polls, but sometimes the polls don't show you the full picture. Next.
Why don't we go to break, because you've got something you want to show them in the next
Yes,
break.
We made a promise to Frank Lentz, and on 9/11, it is important for us to end the show with something that should be a lot more common than it is. What you're going to hear from the men and women who've decided to serve us at West Point. They decided to never forget. 11, like many, I lived it. I was here in the city. I went down there. I saw the towers fall. And I spent a lot of time down there. And I lost people down there. And it changed me. And I asked my then girlfriend to marry me 11 days later because I was so convinced that life was fleeting and that this was the new normal. And for me, it was the best decision I've ever made. For her, other than our 3 kids, she probably could have done a lot better. But what is the legacy of that moment? The broken families, the disruption, the war, the death. There are some of us who decided to make it an inspiration for them to be better. And they are at West Point. Listen to them.
Where were you born?
I was born in Iraq, sir.
And why are you here?
I'm here because I want to serve the nation that gave me the American dream. My father was an interpreter for the United States Army. The U.S. Army as a whole and the American institution has given my family an outlet to chase the American dream. My brother graduated last year from West Point. He just graduated Ranger School today. And I think having that call to service to set our lives forward and build that generational call to service, I think you can't find that anywhere else.